My name is David Carter, and I'm 42. They think I'm a failure. They think I disappeared because I couldn't handle life. But the truth is far worse than anything they imagined. It started with a phone call I never expected. My younger brother Ethan sounded casual at first. "Dad's not doing well. You might want to come by." That was it. No apology, no concern about the last 20 years of silence, nothing. Just a cold, clipped announcement like I was some distant acquaintance rather than the oldest son. I hung up and stared at the ceiling of my small apartment. The walls were covered in faded paint, the same shade of beige I'd used when I first moved in 20 years ago. I had no family now, not really. But something deep inside me stirred, a mix of dread, guilt, and something else, determination. I drove the old sedan I'd bought with my first paycheck after college, a car barely holding together, the engine coughing in protest every time I pressed the gas. When I arrived at the house I had grown up in, my stomach twisted. The garden Dad had tended so lovingly was overgrown, weeds climbing the fence like invaders. I stepped onto the porch, hesitating at the threshold. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. The smell of antiseptic clung to the air, mixed with the faint lingering scent of home. Dad's cologne, slightly too strong for a hospital, a memory that both comforted and tormented me. Ethan was waiting in the living room, arms crossed, his jaw tight. He looked exactly the same as the last time I'd seen him in my 20s. Tall, smug, the kind of man who believed life owed him respect. "David," he said, his voice flat. "You're finally here." I nodded, feeling the weight of every unspoken accusation. The room was quiet, except for the faint beeping of the heart monitor in the background. My father was in the hospital bed, pale and fragile, a shadow of the man I remembered. And then the words came. "You disappeared," Ethan said, his voice rising. 20 years, David? 20 years of Mom crying herself to sleep, wondering what happened to you, wondering if you even cared." I opened my mouth, but no sound came. How could I explain? How could I tell him about the debt I'd taken on to cover my mother's medical treatments after she fell ill during my 20s? How I'd worked 3 jobs to keep her alive while hiding the truth from everyone, even from him. "Look at you," Ethan continued, pacing the room. "Living in some hole in the city, wearing clothes that look like you stole them from a thrift store? What kind of life have you been living, David? Mom always said you'd end up a disappointment." The words cut deep, sharper than any blade. I wanted to scream, to throw the truth in his face, but instead I breathed slowly, letting their assumptions wash over me like poison. They didn't know. They had no idea. The doctor, Dr. Whitman, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should focus on your father's treatment plan. He's in critical condition and needs decisions made." "David," Ethan said, turning to me with an expression that mixed pity and disgust. "You're supposed to take part in this, right? Or are you broken? Too incapable?" I forced a calm smile, one that felt more like armor than expression. "I'm here, Ethan. I'm ready to help," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Ethan snorted. "You've been absent from reality for decades. Probably unstable, judging by the way you look." He leaned closer, his words venomous. "Did you even have a job all these years? Were you homeless or worse?" I clenched my fists at my sides, nails biting into my palms. They thought they knew me? They thought they had the right to judge me? They thought I had been weak. The confrontation escalated as the doctor tried to mediate, explaining my father's options, the high risks of surgery, and the urgency of decisions. But Ethan's need to dominate the conversation was relentless. Every sentence he spoke felt like a hammer striking my chest, every insult another chain binding me to the past he assumed I had wasted. And then came the moment that would change everything. Ethan, in his arrogance, let slip a critical piece of information. "By the way, Dad's entire savings account, gone. Taken by someone you disappeared with, of course. I assume you forgot to care about finances, too." I froze, heart hammering. My father's money? Taken? And Ethan had no idea? Because I had been protecting it. All those years of living in obscurity, working in shadows, avoiding family scrutiny, it wasn't because I had failed. It was because I had been building something they could never imagine. A secret, silent shield, against the people who would squander what mattered most. I took a deep breath, my mind sharp now, calculating. The weight of the years, the lies, the assumptions, the betrayals, they had underestimated me. I stepped forward, calm now, almost unnervingly so. Ethan, you have no idea what I have done all these years. You think I'm weak? You think I've wasted my life, but everything I've sacrificed, everything I've endured, it's all for Dad. And one day, you'll see why disappearing was the only way to protect him from people like you. He looked at me, eyes wide, finally sensing the storm he had ignored for decades. What are you talking about? I smiled gently, the same way I had smiled at the world while enduring its blows in silence. One day, Ethan, one day you'll understand. And when that day comes, you'll realize that the person you judged the harshest was the only one keeping this family from falling apart completely. As I turned to check on my father's vitals, a sense of calm descended. The confrontation wasn't over. The family drama, the resentment, the misunderstandings, they were far from finished. But for the first time in 20 years, I felt power. Not the kind that comes from anger or revenge, but the kind that comes from knowing the truth and letting them discover it on their own. They had underestimated me, and that was their first mistake.